Hey there, listener. Welcome to the Deep Share Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Rouse, and for the last couple of decades, I've slowly been opening my eyes to a very different world than the one I grew up hearing about. And the more conversations I have with interesting people, the more mystifying this world becomes. So without further ado, let's get deep.
We've got science to celebrate! Demons bliss out! After what, baby? Come on!
There is rebellion in the wind. It will crush.
Everything I've said is true. It's real.
Dinosaur fossils? God put those here to test our faith.
A damn lie. I saw them with my own eye.
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
We did illusions, man! None of it is true!
I'm not insane!
This is mass madness, you maniacs! In God's name, you people are the real thing! We are the illusion!
Welcome back to the Deep Share, my friends. Disclaimer, tonight is not necessarily a conspiracy-driven episode or a alternative history deep dive or anything. Tonight is a little different, and I'm really excited for this because I get to do kind of like a total nerd out conversation with another huge fan of John Carpenter's The Thing. As I'm sure you've noticed, if you've listened to me long enough, you've heard me mention it a bunch of times in many different contexts. But tonight I have an author with me who has written a book called Snowblind, Todd Cameron. Todd, how you doing, man?
I'm great, Andy. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thanks for being here. And Todd and I have been trying to make this work for the past few weeks, and we finally got it figured out. And it's great to have you here, man. Folks who don't know, Snowblind is kind of like a prequel to The Thing, if you will, or an origin story to one of, in my opinion, one of the best characters in any movie ever, R.J. MacReady. And Todd, you have been a huge John Carpenter fan, The Thing fan for a very long time, and you started up Outpost 31, this amazing fan site. Let's give the audience a little background into who you are and how you got interested in this and, you know, became a writer at the other end of it.
Wow, for sure. Well, I've been a movie fan all my life, and seeing The Thing was a very chance encounter, possibility. My uncle actually had rented the movie and watched it. And the night before, and he knew I was a huge movie fan, and he had a high-tech VCR, and we didn't have one at the time. This is summer '84, so
Nice.
the movie's a year and a bit out on home rental, and I'm 10 years old, and he calls up my mom and says Todd's got to come over and see this movie, and I actually saw the movie in the middle of the summer '84, super hot day, in the middle of the heat wave, scorching hot out. And I'm glad that I saw it in the afternoon, not late at night on a winter night, because it absolutely terrified me. I mean, I remember my mom was furious with my uncle for what he had shown me. I mean, what did Todd see over there? What happened, right? Because I came home like just completely, I couldn't even walk down the hall to my bedroom.
Holy
just
shit.
terrified. 10 years old, seeing this movie, very influential, influenced little kid, scared witless. And I remember I got home early, saw the movie early, got home early. It's still sunny and hot out. And I actually went swimming with my friends. And I actually felt good to like kind of almost forget about this movie because that's how traumatized it was. I loved it, but I was seriously shaken up by it.
Yeah, endlessly drawn to the fear that you didn't understand, kind of. 10 years old, yeah. For me, it was like Predator at 8 or 9 or something. That was my big one that was like, holy shit, these movies exist. But The Thing came a little bit later for me. I only saw it by chance. I was a huge Halloween fan. I was obsessed with Mike Myers, that kind of era of Carpenter. And I was probably 13 or 14. Yeah, 14, I'd say. And I saw the traditional lettering of the John Carpenter film on the screen, directed by John Carpenter. I'm like, oh man, this must be Halloween. It looks just like it, and turned out to be The Thing. I had never heard of it. Nothing. I had no preconceived notions of what that film was. And it didn't scare me because of the age I was at, but it it floored me. And yeah, it never let go, as obviously it did the same to you.
Right. Never forgot about it. And then it started from there. Everything just kind of started slowly. That chance encounter of seeing the film via my uncle. A year later, so now we're summer 85, I'm 11 years old. He got me a dubbed VHS copy of the movie. So I didn't own a VCR, but I owned a copy of the movie, which kind of, we're going to fast forward to decades later and how weird that is. And then we ended up moving from where we were to Ontario, Canada. And shortly after I had the VHS tape, I ended up getting the novelization by Alan Dean Foster, reading that and loving it, and getting the movie poster all in like 2 weeks span. So I had like the trifecta, and I'm 11 years old, and I had the movie, can watch it, poster, really cool poster from a video store, and the novelization. So I was flying high. I'm like, man, I got the, the trifecta of collecting stuff from this movie at 11 years old. I was pretty happy.
So that really stuck with you for sure at a young age. That's so cool, man. So we could fast forward a little bit into, not necessarily, let's not get to Snowblind yet, but we'll talk about, where this film took you, because I mean, you went to places that I would love to go. You went to the British Columbia site. And that's amazing. Now you did that not for research for your book. You just did that as a fan of the movie, right?
As a fan. That was summer 2003, but let's not jump that far ahead. Yeah,
sure.
After 85, there was obviously that huge period of, I actually would forget about the movie for years. Growing up, things happened, right? Not much happened until I got on the internet, I guess, 93, 94, very, very, very early internet through my dad at home. One of the very first things I looked up was John Carpenter's The Thing. This is going way back, right? Like early internet. And in 97, I found a fan site for The Thing, an amazing fan site that does no longer exist. Many of us have tried to find it on like the Wayback website. Can't find anything of it anywhere. I'd love to see it, because at the time, and even by today's standards, it was probably a kick-ass website. It was for John Carpenter's The Thing and Day of the Dead. It was a dual 2-movie fan site by an Australian who since is, I have no idea who he is. The site is long deleted. I would love to see it. In today's world of fans with social media, the thousands of fans we have, tens of thousands of fans, new fans of the movie, they don't even know about this website. So when it got pulled down, and I did communicate with the owner of it, he told me that he wasn't going to update it anymore. This was 1999. I decided, man, there's got to be a new website, because we were getting word that there was a video game coming for the 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
So I thought, man, we got to do a new website. That's the origin of outpost31.com.
That's awesome.
Which I got the idea in 99, fall 99 for that. Had no idea how to do a website back then or do anything like that. It wasn't like today where it's a piece of cake. It wasn't like that for a couple of decades, actually. Now you can do a website in a day's work on your own.
Oh, yeah.
But I ended up starting to work on this website through late 2000, early 2001, and we launched it in October of 01 live. And it was a pretty complete, thorough, and large website, which only grew over the next 20 years. It grew so much that it needed to be redone completely, which I did on the 35th anniversary in 2017.
Wow.
Kind of downsized it. It just got massive, like 350 plus pages of archives and stuff. And I know I've taken some hits from fans that want to see the entire thing. Again, but it was 3 people, myself and 2 others, over 20 years. It's a lot of work. We're not getting paid for any of this stuff. This is all just fan devotion to this film. So there's, I think the website right now is a lot more streamlined and effective to the new fans who are coming in. And I kept it just for the 82 film. If you started incorporating, who goes there, the 1951 film, the 2011, I mean, you're going to bury yourself.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. The original would have its own website dedicated to it, or could at least.
I hope so. I love the 1951 film. I absolutely love it. And I wish there was a fan site for it, but
It's a brilliant film, and it's a completely different animal than Carpenter's, and that's the whole point. That's why isn't that why they had Carpenter do it, because they knew he was going to go in a very different direction. I thought I heard that at some point, but he wasn't the first choice either.
Carpenter, right, didn't want to remake 1951 film
Right.
from Another World. He wanted to do a film version of Who Goes There. And one of the most misconceived things out there among fans, the most common mistake with Thing is that it's a remake of the 1951 film. And I think at this point, it's such a well-conceived error that they pretty much dropped trying to correct it at this point.
Yeah.
Because Rob Bottin, Carpenter, Russell, at the time, producers tried to really promote it as a movie of the novella Who Goes There. They even released the novella in '82 with the artwork for the film to try and link it to the novella and not the 51 film, but it didn't.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I feel like if I had been around at that time period, I probably would have picked up on that and I would have understood. That's a shame. But of course, the Thing had a long history of getting kind of, it's kind of an underdog story, right? I mean, it came out a week or so apart from E.T. and got clobbered in the box office. So
it came out 2 weeks after E.T. and it opened the same night as Blade Runner.
Yeah. Wow. That's a
as
losing.
We know, it tanked at the box office. That film lost money. Was
Right.
very, very hard on Mr. Carpenter and everybody involved. They knocked it at the park. Everybody did. Every single person on that film, from the directing to the really who he's kind of left in the dust is Bill Lancaster, the screenwriter on The Thing, right? Because he took Who Goes There and wrote a screenplay. And that is the strength, I believe, of the film. One of the big strengths is Lancaster's screenplay.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I would agree with that for sure. I mean, just his writing would have been completely different had they done it any other way. Just the suspense that he put into it and the character development without even really saying much, it's breathtaking how good it was. But yeah,
I would love to see The Thing if Carpenter wasn't rushed. He was very rushed by the studio in making this film. It was his first studio film, and he was given a lot of money at the time. And I would love to have seen if he had a full another year to do what he wanted to do. Thankfully, due to being rushed, a lot of it actually worked and worked well. But there's a couple of sequences that I would love to have seen him have the time and the money for the whole team to shoot and do, especially the ice chase scene from the kennel where the kennel thing gets out onto the ice and they chase it. Have you read the novelization?
I've never read the novelization. No. Are we talking
Definitely
about?
Highly recommended. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I know that I'm not sure if it's already out. I'm behind, but wasn't there or is this what you're talking about? Didn't they take his manuscript and weren't they going to reform it into a full novel? Like his son was involved with it or something after he passed?
No, what I know is that Bill Lancaster wrote the script.
Right.
And then Alan Dean Foster was hired to turn it into a novelization.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Both
no, I haven't.
Excellent.
I would love to read the novelization. That would be amazing if I didn't even realize that was a thing I could have. So I'll probably get that. I thought you were talking about what's supposedly happening with the original manuscript of Who Goes There. I don't know if that's already happened, but I heard that once. Oh man, now I'm going to draw a blank on the author's name of Who Goes There, but his son was supposedly trying to carry it on and release the full manuscript at some point, but maybe that's hearsay. I'm not sure.
Yep. No, I think that's accurate. I do know a little bit about that. I know more about the '82 film than I do about Who Goes There.
True.
But yes, there was I'm trying to look at the book here now. So yeah, this is recently, I believe in the last 2-3 years, they pulled out a longer version from John W. Campbell's notes, files, and re-released it as Frozen Hell.
That's what it was. Okay.
Longer version of Who Goes There. I did read it when it came out once.
What'd you think of it?
I love Who Goes There.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. And it has one of the best scenes in it of all. I think the 38 novella was way ahead of its time in 38. I think the 51 film was way ahead of its time. The
Yeah.
51 risque scenes that, you know, you wouldn't really be expecting in a sci-fi horror movie.
Right.
Very character driven, especially with the female, almost a female lead.
Mhm.
And then of course, 82 film, again, way light years ahead of
Still,
still.
I would say a lot of people bash 2011, but I think it does an okay job. But when it came out, it made no kind of ripple, even, you know, let alone what Carpenter's film did over time, you know.
Man, so much interesting stuff. Like we said before we even got on the air here, I could talk for hours about this stuff. And I'm trying to just go along with you, but I mean, I can digress and go back into so much stuff. The
By all
2011 film
means.
I saw opening night.
Yep, me too.
And for what it's worth, I enjoyed it. I saw it in Toronto, and I saw it with a girlfriend at the time, and I just went to see it for the hell of it, and really enjoyed it. And I actually crazy bunch of connections with that film. So the original, I don't know how to pronounce the director's name, Matthias something.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure.
European. Anyway, they reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to come see the film set
Oh,
for
cool.
the prequel. And it turned out it was 20 minutes away. They built the exterior set from where I was living.
Oh, wow.
20 minutes away. But they emailed me, I believe it was like a week after I arrived in Australia for 3 months.
Oh, man.
20 minutes away, had no idea. I really wasn't following the prequel news very much. New films, they keep them pretty quiet.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know about it. Had no idea it was where I lived. And by the time I got home in the spring, our spring, they were completely wrapped up filming a winter set up there. So that was the first thing. The second thing I found out was a friend of mine from high school did all the pyrotechnical effects, the live action pyro, practical pyro. And he was actually killed 3 years ago yesterday in Toronto.
Oh my
because
God.
he owned a film pyro effects company. And he wanted to do this in high school. So he actually made it quite big. He was doing movie after movie after movie after movie, big stuff, really big stuff. The Thing was one of the many he did in 2011.
Wow.
And he was doing a TV show called Titans. I don't know if you've heard of it. I haven't seen it. Anyway, there was an accident with a vehicle that they were blowing up, and he was killed 3 years ago. Crazy.
Oh, so sorry to hear that. That's terrible. Jeez, what a dangerous job, but they must have loved doing it.
He absolutely loved what he was doing, and that's what his family all said. You know, he was his dream job, and he was loved by many people. And Warren Appleby was his name.
Rest in peace, Warren. And you went up to British Columbia with a friend who passed as well, did you not?
I did. Yes, Steve Crawford. I connected with him around 1999, 2000, before the launch of Outpost 31.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a damn interesting guy. He was a university professor, younger guy, though, mid-30s, incredibly intelligent, gifted man. And he wrote 2 essays, which I actually kept and are on outpost31.com right now. For anybody can go and read them under the fan fiction. He did one called Blair's Calculation of Infection Probability, which is absolutely bonkers, because what he did is he ran this whole scenario with like algorithms, and it came up with like the exact number that's in the film, 75% chance that somebody would be infected, right?
That's
So he
cool.
did this really cool essay on that. And he's got another one that I can't remember right now, but they're definitely worth reading. Cool stuff.
That's awesome. You know, I've looked at that section for a long time, and I've always been trying to be a writer. You know, there's that trying and never finishing anything, but I've looked at the fan fiction thing on your site, and I wanted to try to submit something. So maybe someday I will. You know, it's so enticing.
Writing is a whole nother animal. Like we said, it's, you know, the hardest thing, and this is on my website, the hardest thing that I found and that I'm seeing from other writers is actually just getting started. If you can just get started. For me, the day one on Snowblind, I had the entire novel plotted out, outlined. It's all there. I'm definitely a plotter. I can't just wing it.
Mhm.
It's complete, ready to go right there. And the same kid was my second novel, was the exact same case. You've got to get that day one and start. Like, just so I did it a lot quicker with my second novel. I said I just got to bite the bullet, like pulling the band-aid off and get this done day one. You're so nervous, like you're literally sweating and there's a blank screen and here we go. But I remember it was a long time to start Snowblind once it was actually completed as an outline, to take that step and say, oh man, I got to write this piece. And Snowblind took me 6.5 months with a 5-hour day every single day.
Wow, dedication. That's serious dedication. That's like
Yeah,
Stephen King style.
There's no other way, like, unless you want to make it take 20 years. I mean,
I hear you, man. I write a little bit on like a work break or a little bit before bed. It's never gonna get anything done unless I literally corner off time every day. And I know I have to do that because I really love doing it. And it's similar. The way you describe getting into the writing process is very similar to how I have to get into a book. It could be the greatest book I'm about to read that I've been waiting for, and it'll still take me 10, 15, 20 pages. Once that's in the head, then I'm good. Then I want to know everything. But it's that starting. You got to get through a chapter and boom, then you're sucked in. I feel like a lot of people give up on reading in general because of that little first oomph you got to give it, you know?
I give up on movies way quicker than I give up on books. 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I will shut it off. These days, my time is precious. I will put something else on, especially with the thousands of good movies out there.
Dude,
Books, I'll stick it out a little longer, but not so much anymore. I'm reading a Dean Koontz book right now that I absolutely think is terrible.
I ran into that a lot with him back in the day.
My third Dean Koontz book. And what I'll do is, like with his book last night, I realized this I'm putting this down. I've learned all I can from it as well. I have no interest in the characters or the ending, but I've gleaned what I can from his writing style. It's definitely really beneficial, at least for me, well, they say for everybody, to read a variety, not just in your genre, read everything, basically.
I hear that a lot about filmmakers too, you know, and musicians. I'm a huge metalhead. I love death metal and everything. But one of the most amazing things I ever heard a death metal singer say to an interviewer who asked, like, you know, what are your favorite metal bands? He's like, oh, I don't listen to any metal. No, man, I don't want my stuff starting to sound like everybody else. So it was just like really cool. Like, all right, so he's not even going there. That's interesting. It's like the total opposite.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah, for writing and filmmaking and writing, I mean, they recommend the more you read, the more you watch, the better. So absolutely. I'm a huge movie. I'm guilty of watching more film than reading more books. I'm trying to transition to reading, and I should. I just should. You know, I shouldn't watch a movie every night. I should probably read more, which hopefully I get there.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I had the same problem with turning the TV off and turning the reading light on. It's you know, it's just it's a willpower thing. How much more energy do you have in the day to be proactively paying attention and seeking it out rather than just receiving it? That's a common thread in my house. But
I love writing. Absolutely love it. I think it's one of the best clicks I've had in my life today.
That's
had a few and another kind of genres or areas of interest, but the writing really clicked, and I'm lucky to be here because I don't think I'd ever get to the point of being able to focus on, sit down and write Snowblind, make that first novel happen, if a number of things hadn't happened to me. I would still be way into other activities. So it's like almost like the silver lining thing. Bad stuff has to happen. It opens new doors. That's absolutely true.
Yeah. And you have to learn hard work and dedication through trauma sometimes and all different means. But you're also very dedicated. You were a dedicated swimmer as well, were you not? You did some epic swimming thing. What was it exactly?
One of the swimming projects I did that was actually related to the Australia trip that I just told you about. I was sponsored to go down there and do an awareness swim for sharks, another passion of mine. And I kind of combined the two, swimming and sharks. And we were going to do a project to swim the entire Great Barrier Reef from one end to the other, south to north. And after a couple months there in Australia, I realized the logistics of this thing was enormous. Basically swimming, Miami to Toronto. with
Wow.
one support boat. So it was a huge project. I ended up coming home and completing the same distance of the swim, but as a stage swim day, swimming in a pool and open water races and all that. But to actually complete that project was just number one, it was just a danger.
Yeah.
Complete danger. And we could not find an insurance company to insure the project at all, period. You know,
Oh,
at one
man.
point we were, the closest hospital was 700 miles away. So, and with the dangers on the reef, there was no way. And I'm thinking, man, do I even want to do this if we even could at that point, you know? So,
Wow. That is so amazing that you were gonna attempt it though. That's pretty impressive.
oh, we were going to attempt it. All right. Yeah. We were ready to go. Like we were gung ho then, you know?
Mhm. Is that the only shark awareness one that you did, or was there another one? Maybe I'm
I did a lot of the races kind of dedicated to raising awareness and was very involved in sharks, animal
Mhm.
rights, and that put me on a whole nother path. But I actually
I
got
bet.
injured. When I got back from Australia, things were going really, really well. I finished the 2,300-kilometer swim, and then I got injured. So that's what kind of shifted me away from, I would say, athletics and focusing more on movies and books
Mhm.
and which was a passion of mine, but I just wasn't dedicating the time, you know, to it that would have been needed to become an author.
Right, right. Wow. That's really cool, man. So you have Outpost 31 up and running for a long time. You've been invited to the prequels set. That's really cool. I'm curious. This is a question that man, maybe one of a few, but have you ever been in contact with, tried to get in contact with Rob Bottin? Was he
No, I haven't actually.
no.
No, I've been very fortunate to meet about half the cast, meet
That's cool.
Carpenter. I haven't met Kurt Russell. It would be really cool to meet him.
That would be cool.
The cast have all been really, really cool. The Richard Mazer really sticks out as being one huge. He's a really big dude.
Yeah.
Like 6'3" or 6'4". Really awesome guy. All the guys were great. Wilford Brimley, got to meet him before he passed away.
Oh, that's so cool.
Didn't meet Donald Moffat, and he's since passed. But the very first interaction I had with one of the cast was for 8 years. I had this event called ThinkFest up in Canada. We're going to have to jump back to that and just talk about that for a little bit.
Sure.
Too, because I guess it was the third year we were doing it. It was 2003. We'd come back already from the filming location. And out of the blue, I guess, I don't remember the initial setup even, but I guess I emailed one of the actors, Joel Polis, who plays Fuchs, and I forgot about it. This was, I think, I don't remember the time frame now. We're going back 19 years. So, but lo and behold, then I'm just at home the night before ThinkFest. I have friends coming in. It wasn't a huge event, but it was a fun event. Back then, we had a lot of fun. You know, people came in from the States and even Europe, and we were just home at my house. So I had a group of friends, maybe 5 or 6 guys over. The screening was tomorrow. Phone rings. No cell phone back then, just a landline. I picked it up, and it was Joe Polis. And we ended up talking for like 45 minutes, which was awesome. You know, he called to say congrats on ThinkFest, and he checked out Outpost 31. And he actually, a couple weeks later, sent me the mail a whole bunch of photos. He printed his personal photos from the filming location trip up to Canada.
Wow.
And signed them all and mailed them to me. So he was really, really cool.
That's so cool. And didn't we just have one of the cast members join our Facebook Outpost 31 group?
Thomas Waits has been around. Yeah, he's on Facebook and Instagram. I've met him twice. In 2008 in Toronto. The last ThinkFest was in conjunction with Rue Morgue magazine. Familiar with them?
No.
No, Rue Morgue, they're very big. They're not as big as Fangoria, but they're a very big Canadian horror magazine based out of Toronto.
I've probably seen it.
I'm sure you've seen it. Yeah, they had Tom come up from New York City where he lives to do the event. And we had all my stuff on display. Cool. And Tom's been really cool. I met him in 2017 at Monster Mania in New Jersey.
Nice.
That's where we got to meet the other guys, Peter Maloney, Richard Mazer, Wilford Brimley. I can't remember the other guys right now who were there.
There's so many of them.
Yeah.
Not Kurt though. Kurt wasn't there.
No, I don't think he does smaller cons like that.
No, but that's cool that you got to meet so many of them. It's really cool and the fact that you got to meet Wilford Brimley, and I feel like The Thing is such an important film for people that only know Wilford Brimley as like the diabetes guy on commercials. Really need to go find that movie and see how amazing that man is. I mean, that's not the only example of his amazing acting, but I think every one of those men did just their acting in that movie stands out to me so much, even though it's not some big best picture movie or anything like that, but you have some of the best tension, some of the best character building, some of the best performances I've ever seen in any movie, to be honest. And it's crazy to think that these weren't even really, all in all, household names that lived on too much. These guys are much more accessible probably because they're not these A-listers because they, I don't know, didn't choose to or whatever, but it's amazing how that happened because the acting is so superb. And maybe I should lend more credence to Carpenter perhaps, but
You want to see a great performance in The Thing is watch TK Carter as Knowles. Watch him in all the scenes. Carpenter has a lot of amazing shots in his films, and The Thing is watch TK Carter in the background. He is phenomenal. People ask me, a question I get is, what's my favorite scene in the movie? My favorite scene and sequence in The Thing is when Knowles knocks on the door and they let him back inside. The next few minutes, 3 or 4 minute sequence is awesome. It's the most tense scene in the film. Everyone's acting all around is fantastic. David Clennon has spit coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
They're so into the scene. TK Carter's terrified on his knees at the door.
Windows, where were you?
That's it right there.
Dude.
Everybody, Keith David in the
I
background.
got chills.
Yeah, I get chills from that scene. That's my favorite scene in the movie. I absolutely love the paranoia and the tension in that scene with everybody.
And TK's expressions, if that's what you're referring to, like in the background, his expressions give away almost like a subtle breaking of the fourth wall, even almost like he's speaking for us. Like, this is fucking horrible. This is terrifying. Why are we here? It's unbelievable. His subtle facial expressions throughout. It's amazing.
Yeah, and he has sheer terror on his face, and without dialogue too, just showing his emotion is absolutely fantastic. Other great actors in there. Charles Hallahan, who passed away a while ago now, I believe 97. He does a fantastic job in the movie. Everyone's great. From the cinematography, directing, writing, acting, the set of Outpost 31.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was magic. And that's what made the film what it is.
And obviously the set itself put together by the team and led by Rob Bottin, who friggin' slept on set for like a year straight or something like that.
That's a whole another story. Yeah.
It's like maybe a wives' tale of, but I mean, for the most part, he was there sleeping on the set, working day in, day out until he like needed to take a break. And right. It's unbelievable. A lot of people don't even know that he wasn't the only, big kahuna on the set when it comes to the effects, and especially when it comes to like the most prolific scene in the movie wasn't his.
Right. Yeah. They were overloaded and had to call in Stan Winston to do the entire kennel sequence. And, Bottin wasn't up in Stewart. Neither was Brimley. Neither were a lot of people. It was a very small crew that went up there and to shoot all that stuff. They did 2 effect sequences they had to do without the effects people. The effects stuff was sent up, literally in a wood crate, and here, make it look real with some gel, and here you go. And
wow.
That was the burn body of Fuchs, and the Bennings hands, and Bennings being attacked in the supply room. That was all shot up in Canada. And basically they just had people, set it up and get the shots with it. So everything else was down in LA.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's pretty impressive that the team was able to pull it off without special effects directing being there at the time, because those scenes themselves are also pretty prolific. Those are amazing effects scenes. Bennings reaching out and all that. So let's not forget that you got to go to the set, and this wasn't even for research for your book. This was well before that as a fan.
Well, before then, yeah. So I guess we'll just jump back quick before that. I said I had a copy of the VHS tape, no VCR to play it, no way to watch it, but I was thrilled and happy because I was an 11-year-old kid with a copy of the thing. So fast forward to 2001. Now I wanted to see the thing in the theater. Now, this is way before what we have now with this, I guess they just screened the thing for the 40th. There was some sort of nationwide.
Oh, yeah.
You could go see it basically everywhere. I checked and there was 3 places around here that were showing. So now they're doing it more regularly. But in 2001, that was unheard of. There was no like showing 20-year-old movies in the theater. That just wasn't happening. So I wanted to see it in the theater. Absolutely. I want to make this happen. And the only way I could do it got tricky. So I went on a website and bought the film on 35 millimeter, 80 pounds of film, 35 mil, 2 cans, 6 reels, plus a trailer. Had it shipped from the States to Canada. That was a whole other customs fiasco we won't even get into. So just crazy stuff's happening, man. Rented a theater, asked if they do it for a private screening, and he said, we can do it as long as we do a private showing and you rent it out, close the doors. So I did that and watched it with about 20 people, and it was awesome.
That's so awesome.
Absolutely
was that the first one? Was that the first like anniversary?
One. Yeah, that was 2001 summer again, which was kind of weird because it was a summer screening again through a U-Wave.
Wow.
So everything kind of synced up nice. And I owned the film, but now on film. So everything was kind of like weird. And then I asked the guy who ran the theater in Ontario, London, Ontario, I said, how do we do this so I can like make theater full of people and people can pay, just come see it, or however it works. And we could do that. We just needed the license from Universal. So he had to officially rent the film and get the license. We couldn't use my film, but it turned out that my film was better than the rental film that came from Universal in the States. So we swapped it out and used my print. But we had the rights to do it because we had so we had 2 copies of the thing on 35 mil sitting there. And then
that's crazy. And so now they've done it multiple times.
So we did it 8 years in a row, culminating with the 2008 Thomas Waits attending. But now it's more common. I've seen the thing even here in Florida. I went to a screening for the 35th. The Tampa Theater is a gorgeous theater in Tampa. From the 1920s, beautiful theater. And I saw the thing there, I saw Halloween there, and I saw Jaws there.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's cool. So where are we now in the timeline?
Well, I got to go see the thing at a John Carpenter retrospective in 2002. So Outpost 31 was up and running. I had seen the thing in the theater myself and started it that fall with a Thing Fest screening. I heard that there was a John Carpenter event at the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood, California. So I flew there for like a week and we had a great time. Carpenter wasn't doing any signings or handshakings or photos, nothing. He was very strict back then about what he was doing. But nonetheless, I saw Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York. I think I saw almost all of the Carpenter films they were showing, including The Thing. And got to do a Q&A with Carpenter, listen to that, which was really cool. Nice. That's 20 years ago already. I can't believe it.
Wow.
It's crazy. I feel like the 20th anniversary was something huge because we had the video game, right? Which was, I'm not a gamer at all. I found it very challenging to play, but it was fun. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, I was so excited. I feel like I was the only one of my friends that was excited for it because none of my friends were really interested or knew the thing or whatever, but I just happened to love it. And that game was awesome. And I've heard some quiet talk here and there about a possible reboot of that project at some point, or a sequel or something. It may not even be an official release. It may be more of a Steam-based fan-made game, but I'm all for it. I'll support it, anything related to it. But yeah, so yeah, you've gotten this far. You've had all these experiences, and then you actually I keep mentioning going to Stewart, but if you have more before that, by all means, we can get into whatever you want.
The highlight for me the highlight of the thing has been seeing the first screening in the theater, and then the trip to Stewart was just perfect. Everything went perfect on that trip for it to work. So there's only been 2 fans that have gone. So myself and Steve. And then in 2016, many years later, because we went in 03, a fan by the name of Peter Abbott went up. So Steve and I were talking about the idea of going, and talked to my girlfriend at the time, and we made it as a whole month-long trip to BC in the summer to go out west and throw in the thing. And the thing turned out to be the highlight. And number one was the location. I'd never been that far north, or probably that rural before ever in my life. It was a spectacular location, absolutely unbelievable, where we had to go to get there. You know, multiple flights, fly to Vancouver, fly 2 hours north from Vancouver to Terrace, and then drive, 6-7 hours to Stewart. The next day, drive and cross the border into Alaska at Hyder, Stewart and Hyder, the border towns, and then drive 45 minutes up Salmon Glacier Road. Seeing a glacier for the first time was pretty wild. The 5th largest glacier in Canada, and you can see it from the road, which is pretty cool. You can literally drive by it. And then just past the glacier, tricky to find, very tricky to find, especially first time. There wasn't a big sign announcing everything's here. I mean, we saw the mountains in the background. We knew we were in the right spot, but it was Steve, again, coming back to him, Steve Crawford was the kind of a mathematician tech guy. He had gone on the DVD at the time, the 98 original DVD, and from the bonus materials, printed up in color in a binder, all the construction shots. And that is the only way we actually locked down the spot. And boy, did we lock it down, because once we had it, boom, we were like 100%. Okay, now we got it. And then it gets crazier. So we had the location. We saw the knoll. We saw there was this kind of like this knoll down off the road. So the road went down off like a ravine, down to the edge of the drop off to a lake. I think it was called Summit Lake. And then in the background is Salmon Glacier to the west, and the 2 mountains. I forget the name of the mountains, but there's 2 of them clearly behind Outpost 31. Because Carpenter always shot only facing one direction, pretty much from that. Behind that set was trees, evergreen trees all over. Antarctica, that wouldn't happen.
Right.
So we went down, we could see the bulldoze location right away from the photos. It all matched. There was a flat leveled area where they built the set on. So they bulldozed the flat area where they built the set to make the ground was very uneven. They're very big rocks. And then I guess within minutes of being on top of the knoll, we started immediately finding burned pieces of wood. And we're thinking, there's no way. Is this the actual movie set? Pick them up, look at them. They're all gray. And we're like, okay, has to be it. Has to be it. 100%. It's Outpost 31. And then, so we're picking up these pieces of wood, burned, scattered everywhere, nails. And my girlfriend at the time said, look at that. And then right where it should be in relation to the layout of the camp, where the Norwegians land the chopper, where the dog runs up, there's a big, long, huge 15-foot rotor blade of a helicopter with the chassis assembly, all sitting there rusted. And to think that this stuff is there, but this is 2003, so we're only 21 years after the movie.
True.
Right now we're 40 years after. And so we go down, check it out. Sure enough, it's definitely a hydrofoil. Like it's been blown up, it's been dented, it's laying there. There's a remains of the rest of the helicopter remains sitting there.
Oh, wow.
So we ended up cutting it off with a hacksaw that we purchased that night in town, going back up the next night. Because this is north of town, the site. It's not in town. It's a good 45-minute drive up this mountain road, like literally a mountain cliffside road that kind of winds up.
Nice.
You go off and you're dead. Absolutely,
Yeah.
You're dead. I mean, this is August, early August, and there's snow everywhere, still snow melt from the previous winter, which is nuts to think, we're almost at the end of summer and we've got snow melting.
Oh, yeah.
Stewart gets the highest snowfall in North America, which is one of the reasons why they chose it, because they figured if we build this set in July and August of 81, by the time we get up there in December, it should be buried. And sure enough, it was buried good.
Yeah, it looked perfect. That's crazy. And so, yeah, that rotor blade was quite a project. You got it all the way back to the States, and now you got it at home with you, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I actually didn't have to ship it to the States, which was pretty cool. I shipped it to my site because we were in Canada.
That's right.
We got it. We just drove across the border back. The site's kind of weird to reach because it's this Outpost 31's on Canadian soil, Stewart's in Canada, but you got to go through Hyder. So you have to go into this little kind of like cutoff of the States first. So there is a border, although they're strict about, they don't check IDs or anything, wave at you pretty much. So we were worried coming back across, this guy whoever was working the booth would say something about this 15-foot piece of metal going from the dashboard and 3 feet out the back. Didn't even bat an eyelash at it. So we cut it in half and shipped it back to ourselves. Steve sent his piece to South Carolina and I sent mine to Ontario.
That's so cool.
When I got home, full 3 weeks later, because we were there for a month and in total, it was sitting on my front porch wrapped in cardboard. And they didn't have labels at the post office up there. It's very small. So we used stamps to mail a 50 pounds? I don't know, it was heavy as hell.
Wow.
Maybe we had like 100 and something stamps on there.
Damn. And now you got an awesome trophy at home with
very cool.
Great story.
Great story. Probably my prize possession from the film. And the trip was just fantastic. And so much stuff happened up there that in sequence that we were fortunate enough to not only find it, but be able to go back up and get the rotor blade, because we were thinking about not going up the first night we were there. We'd gotten into town, but we couldn't resist. We ended up driving up there in the late afternoon and finding it pretty much without trouble, a little bit, but we would not have found it without the photos and Steve working together. It would have been tricky.
Yeah, triangulating all those mountains and where they were. That's
crazy. Very tricky. The mountains are way across on the other side.
Wow.
So other than the thing, it was a wicked spot to go to. I would never have gone north naturally, my personal interests. So it was really neat to go up there and see it. We saw some cool stuff. Bears crossing the road right in front of us. Just really cool stuff.
Yeah, the pictures that I've seen from you put that YouTube collage video up on that trip. It's breathtaking up there. It's crazy. You go north and into the coldest areas and you find some of the most beautiful places to be. Did you guys have to hike in a lot to get to the site itself, or was it just
no, you can
right
pretty
off the
much
road?
drive to it. Now, the unfortunate thing now is I know there's some fans planning on going up this year, and I was planning to go up for the 40th, but for me, I've been there and done that, and it did get pushed down on my list because I've already done it. Yeah. So I'm doing other things, which I'm excited about. I definitely plan to go back up, but what I'm worried about for this trip potentially and for future is that I don't know if the site is even accessible now. Somebody just sent me a video like 2 days ago that I took a quick look at on YouTube. And it looks like you can only get to the glacier now. So you need to go another mile to get to the site. But to answer your question, no, there's not a lot of hiking involved. You can pretty much, which is how they built it and got the crew there to film, is there's no hiking there. I mean, you've got to just go down this little ravine and onto the knoll and you're there. Maybe 3-4 minutes from your parked vehicles. And they had, so at the time you could drive right down onto it.
Okay.
I mean, the road is still there. I think we even contemplated doing it because we had a rented SUV from a Jimmy that we rented in Terrace, 6 hours away from there. But we decided not to try driving it down off the main road. You're talking about 40, 50 feet down this ravine. But the road that they made, specifically Universal would have paid for, is still there.
Wow.
Definitely.
That's crazy. And the whole site's pretty much bulldozed and most of the big chunks are gone, obviously.
Peter went there in 2016. So that was, 13 years after we were there. Is that right? Yes. And so that's already been 6 years ago now, since he was there. And I know he's planning to go back up I believe they're planning to go in September, which is probably a smart choice. We were there in August, and in the summer, the bugs were fierce, absolutely insane bugs. And we had great weather though. I mean, it was 75 degrees and sunny. I was wearing shorts at the site, but the bugs were fierce, would not go again at that time of year. So they're going to go when it's a little cooler. It cools off very fast up there, by September, the days are getting short and it's getting cooler, but that stops the bugs. So we'll have to see what happens if anyone goes. Number one, it's a very not an easy place to reach, multiple flights, lots of driving, rented cars, hotels,
Oh yeah.
you know.
Well, see, would it be, I don't know what the laws are like up there. Would you be able to camp right on the site if you
Oh yeah, you
so
could
dared,
definitely
or
camp on the site.
that would be
As long
cool.
as it's as it was when we were there, there were people just parking their RVs on the side of the road, but not a lot of people. I mean, maybe
Okay.
past 2 people on the whole 45-minute run up there.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And they're
it's a
not up there for
popular
the same
spot.
reason.
No, nobody. I don't know if any fans have gone there other than Steve and I and Peter. I don't think so.
Wow.
That have actually gone. A couple have tried and made it as far as like Stewart, I think somebody went, but they actually didn't make it the further. You know, you're so close at that point, but you know, it is tricky to get up there. So
Did you go a second time for research for the book, or was that just the one time you went?
nope, just the one time I went. It's a fairly big trip. So
Yeah.
no,
yeah.
like I said, I definitely want to go again.
Mhm.
It was such a cool trip. For more than just a thing, like there was a lot of fun stuff to see and do, and a really cool location. I definitely want to go again. And I've got this really cool plaque I'd like to put at the site to mark episode 31, the film, and as a memorial for Steve, because he and I were both floored on that trip.
Yeah.
To find the site, to find the actual remains of the camp and the chopper, was just like we couldn't believe it. You know, it was a really cool trip.
I really hope you can get back up there and put that plaque up. That sounds perfect. That's great, man. So let's get into the book a little bit. Obviously, I know the inspiration, but let's give the audience a little info on what this book is and how it relates to the thing.
Sure, yeah. So the idea for Snowblind started as a character bio. So there was an original TV version of The Thing, a TV edit, that I used to have a VHS copy of that is terrible. It's absolutely horrible. I believe an exec at Universal, who remain nameless, did it. And but it was kind of interesting because it gave the script doesn't really give you a lot on the characters. I think they get 3 sentences each. You know, MacReady plays chess, hates the cold, drinks, something like that. That's it.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if they gave the actual actors that, or I think it was very brief when I remember them talking about. So I thought, what if I did a character bio for them all? And I believe this is long gone, but I did an in-depth one for each man, all 12 guys. But of course, the focus was RJ MacReady. And I got a little deeper with him, and I thought, you know, I started thinking about him and how I related to him a little bit, in that I hated the cold and drank a lot at the time. And I thought, well, what's this guy doing in Antarctica then? Like, you know, there was a little bit of a backstory on MacReady. I'm just remembering this now from the TV edit about him working for an aircraft company and being a test pilot and having a falling out with his boss.
Oh, interesting.
There was a little backstory there, but I decided to abandon that and do something a little different. And I think my number one goal when I decided that I was actually going to do a novel was I wanted it to be standalone. I didn't just want to write something for fans of The Thing, although this would definitely be for them. I wanted something that everybody could read individually without, and that's the case to this day, is a lot of people I speak with about Snowblind have no idea about The Thing, which is really cool. I think it's really, for me, I'm like, and I don't even need to say a thing about it, you know? So it's kind of neat to see them get into this book and story and character without the film at all.
I felt that way when I would pick up on little nods in the book. I was like, oh, I bet that's just for me. That's just for me right now. But there's so many people that could read right over it.
I'm sure a lot of people who had no connection to Carpenter or The Thing, it went right over their heads completely. And you know, I did have a little more stuff in there too, but as I learned, you have to trim a book down, and I learned a lot. Snowblind was book 1, so I learned a lot. It was a learning experience, crazy. I'd love to go back and rewrite it completely and do it. You know, just last week I finished my second novel. So
yeah,
I can't believe the
congratulations, man.
difference. Thank you. I'm very excited about this next book coming out.
Nice.
So like I said, Snowblind's the first one. So you'll learn a ton of stuff, you know. It's amazing. I'm self-taught on everything with this. I never went to school for this at all. So it's, I just chewed through books as a kid and movies. And, you know, I always thought one day I'd be an author and write books. And I guess this was the path.
I guess so. It took a while to get there, and then you got there. And
Got
you know,
there.
it's not a small book for your first book. This is a beast of a book. It's like almost 600 pages. You know,
Yeah,
it's a
it came
great.
out at 161,000 words, which is too long. It fortunately just works. I did cut it down. It fortunately works at that length, but the second novel is definitely more in the word count of the genre of the crime thriller noir genre.
Mhm.
It's a little shorter, a little bit of
Well,
quicker read, faster pacing.
fair enough. I can't wait to read it, but you know, the length, the depth of the story, the character development that you put forward for the main guy, the Snowblind was a masterpiece. And I really applaud it, and not just as a Thing fan, because again, the whole time I'm reading it, I'm like, I want to give this to my father who doesn't really care about the Thing, because he would love this book.
Right.
It's a great thriller, man.
Thank
Really,
you, I appreciate it.
yeah, man.
Well, you know, it wasn't easy. It was definitely a lot of work, you
Yeah.
know, so that's the catch probably to that is I definitely put the work in. So, I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours to, you know, from the original, like I said, the original concept of this, kind of like the inception for Snowblind was the character bio for RJ MacReady and kind of playing with that and then making a timeline for him, like where would he be in, you know, where to go to high school, where was he born, where to go to high school, how to become a helicopter pilot, of course, Vietnam War, you know, he's a vet. So that was in the bio for, you know, on the script. I think that was it, you know, and I don't know where they came up with a little more in-depth bio for the TV edit. I have no idea where they even, I think somebody wrote that and made that up, totally unconnected to Carpenter. And we know what Carpenter said about the TV edit.
Yeah.
Somebody should burn it.
Yeah.
So
Things should never see the light of day. Yeah.
exactly.
And I love how you gave an origin story to the hat. I think that was so, but that's just one of those nods, and we won't give any like spoilers about the novel, but I think it's safe to kind of rehash some of the influence from the Thing. It's such a great way that you did it. And I thought the hat was so great. And it's not just some, oh yeah, I got to add that in somehow. You really gave that hat like some real meaning to him. And it kind of
sure. Yeah.
now, and I've yet to watch the Thing front to finish since I finished Snowblind. So it's been a few months where like, and I watch the Thing probably, yeah, once every few months about anyway. So it's about time anyway, just in the background. I don't have to sit there and pay attention to the whole thing, but it's just kind of one of those background movies at this point where I can just always have it on and it feels like home. I don't know if a cosmic horror is supposed to feel like home, but it does, you know.
I can relate. I know exactly what you're saying. And unfortunately, there's a flip side to that, which is not good, is that the Thing obviously doesn't scare me anymore. And when I watched the Thing, because there's another project that's actually that we were talking about earlier that I've completed and done. And so I've got to make sure I put it out there. I just got to organize how I'm going to do that.
Yes.
But when I watched the Thing, now it's a study in like, the Thing is a mystery. It's definitely a mystery film because so many things happen in that movie off screen and so many unanswered questions. Who did what, who was where, what happened, you know, and then the ending, which is, again, is another big question.
Right.
Yeah,
Fans aren't even satisfied. We're never satisfied with even Carpenter's elusive answers about the ending. We're like, no, it's a million other things.
Right. Yeah. And he's going to keep it ambiguous like that and elusive because, you know, keep the fans guessing, keep the interest high, right?
Yeah. And it really is a lot of the unspoken off screen or still on screen, but unspoken, you know, expressions. A lot of it is left up to us in that movie to not only interpret, but to piece together. And yeah, it seems like we're still piecing it together. When I visit Outpost 31 and see all the new theories from people just throwing it out there, hey, just listen, nobody yell at me. I know we've been over this, but just hear me out for a second. You know, I just love it. It's still going. It's crazy. 2022. So
obviously I've been through all those conversations starting back in 99 when I first got online on the discussion board that was on that original Thing site. So that's when I first got into the main big questions, you know, who got to the blood, the ending, you know, was Blair human before or after the tool shed? And I guess after the 20 years of listening to people's theories, my own theories and ideas, watching the movie countless times. And what I did was piece together the film if we could see the whole thing. If you could watch everything. Fuchs, for example, the one scene where they find Fuchs dead, what happened? Who killed him? Right? Why did they kill him? So what I did is I wrote 12 short stories that fill in the 12 big missing gaps in the thing and kind of runs the gauntlet for the film and pieces it all together. But what I found in doing that it got even more interesting than I could possibly imagine. So what I wanted to do was something that was obviously realistic. So I guess, and this is, if there's many fans listening to this, they're probably going to start maybe yelling and screaming or whatever, but everyone has their own theories. But I'm going to go with a base one that I feel and that the majority, I'm going to safely say the majority of fans believe. So was Blair taken over before or after he's locked in the tool shed? So first I'll pose that question to you. Ooh. And see what you say.
I say before.
You believe he was taken over before he was locked in the tool shed?
I do.
So as the Thing, now an alien, he purposely, had himself locked in the tool shed away from the other people?
That is a really good question. I guess I don't. I mean, I'm not prepared for this. Oh my God. I swear I have some deep theories about it, and I have looked into Blair a lot, but I always tended to think that he was that, so I can't answer that directly, but I will say that on Outpost 31, probably weeks back, I was having a discussion with someone about the noose. And his perspective, the person I was talking to was kind of saying like, look, he was human. And to that, I wonder if there's like a process of, or like a bipolar nature in there or something, maybe more of the thing we don't see, right? Here's my crazy theory, right? That
so if
the human is locked in there, but, possibly, acting out things that the human would do regardless of knowing why it's doing it. I don't know.
Right.
Go ahead. What's your interpretation?
That's the beauty of it with these things too. There is no right or wrong, unless it's something that completely doesn't work.
Right.
Theory. And we've seen a couple of those, like people have only seen the film a couple of times and they're throwing in their 2 cents. And you got to go back and watch it a few more dozen times.
Yeah. Listen, buddy, there's rules here.
There are some rules, hard and fast. You can't, it was either Norris or Palmer infected first, and they're interchangeable. They are interchangeable as to who you feel a shadow on the wall is. You can go either route. So this is basically what I found interesting when I started working with this. So I played with that and kind of did like a choose your own adventure. Let's put Norris first. Let's put Palmer first, and let's walk it forward with each man as the Thing.
Wow.
But what I wanted to do as a writer was write a good story. So which one would be more interesting? Which one would connect to a later event and be more interesting and cooler, for want of a better word, that would reconnect with something else? So it would definitely turn out to be one of the men, and have it move forward with him as the first takeover, and then such and such and so on to the other men. And actually, a lot of people don't get taken over. And I haven't thought this material for a very long time in my head, but it goes on to the keys. The drop keys are a huge pivotal point in the movie in regards to Blair. Bennings being taken over, Blair destroying the helicopter and the radio, which in that whole scene kind of spin right there. I can't remember what night that is in the timeline, but there's a lot going on right there. It's a lot happening. It's pretty crazy. It gets pretty heavy.
Yeah, I need to rewatch it now, and it's not like something I haven't seen a million times, but now you got my wheels spinning. Like there's more that I've missed. Definitely. If you're still looking, then there's stuff that I've missed for sure. It's interesting you brought up that first infection to the human, because I remember when I was younger, I always thought it was Norris and his shadow. But then I heard a bunch of people on Outpost 31 feeling like it was Palmer. And when I look at it now, I'm like, it almost seems like Carpenter purposely made sure the person's hair was ambiguous, because when you think about Palmer, his hair is erratic. He's the stoner. It's all over the place. And I guess I think his silhouette would have been a little bit more crazy. Right. But then you got Norris, who's got this little fro kind of going on. His hair is just very neat. So his silhouette would be more smooth, but it's kind of right in the middle, or at least enough maybe it's purposeful, maybe it's not. Maybe that's just paranoia. But
No, I think it's very purposeful. And one of the weirdest things of dozens of weird things about this movie is that if you Dick Warlock is the actor who actually cast the Shadow, the stuntman. If you actually look at pictures, photos of him, he kind of looks a little bit like David Clennon and Charles Hallan, which is extremely bizarre because he's the ambiguous actor playing either of those men's shadow on the wall.
yeah,
It's really weird. If you look at pictures of him, I'm like, this is like a stand-in. Like then they're very different looking men.
right.
Right? Clennon and Hallahan are very different looking men. But when you look at Warlock face on, you're like, this is really weird. Another weird thing is that Fuchs, the actor, Joel Polis, has a twin in real life.
Oh,
Now that would have been really cool to incorporate or work with in the film. So
that would
I thought that was
oh
kinda
my
neat.
God. Yeah, that would have been a whole nother dynamic. It's almost like if Carpenter had found out, like, oh, wait, you have a twin? We're
Right,
in rewrites.
right, exactly. Let's try and incorporate this into the film somehow. That could be perfect, you know.
Yeah. What do you think the most challenging part of writing Snowblind was versus what was the most rewarding part of it?
Wow. Okay. The rewarding part was the completion of the book.
Yeah.
The day of actually completing it and realizing that I did write quite a lengthy novel that I was fairly happy with. And then, of course, seeing it actually published that first day, I was like, wow. You know, that was the sweating. There was a lot of, like I said, work, sweat, tears to make this a reality.
Mhm.
I'm actually seeing the book. That was the most rewarding. Hardest part, like we already talked about earlier, probably that initial day one.
Mhm.
I think I remember the actual day. It was November of 2019. And it was like, I gotta start this. Like, I've been putting it off for months, going back, tweaking the outline. And I'm like, that really did help. You know,
Yeah.
it really worked the characters and the story and kind of spun the end around a bit. But I think that the day one, getting going, and then just the caliber of writing, since it was my first novel, was in the edits, you know, having it critiqued because it was edited by acquaintances,
Mhm.
taking their feedback and working with it. And they were right. Everyone was absolutely right. But that's also very hard when you've just done, you know, 6.5 months and okay, and now this is all got to be redone. Whoa. You know? And I took everything as you're supposed to, you know, everything, the good, the bad, and did a lot of heavy editing with Snowblind, a lot of heavy editing.
Yeah, that's the scariest part, looking at anything I've ever worked on. And I think it's not necessarily a conscious part that holds me back, but I know that when I'm consciously working on something, knowing that at the end of it, I'm going to need to kind of destroy part of it and build it up in a different way or something. I think the laziness is what gets me more than anything. And I need to reprioritize in some ways, but it's such a heavy undertaking. And again, I commend you for just biting the bullet and doing it. When it comes to the editing process and having, what would your recommendation be? Because, you know, you're saying you had acquaintances edit it. It's not like you're going to some big office and having professionals edit it. What kind of advice would you give, you know, a new writer when it comes to that process? I mean, for me, it's like, oh my God, do I trust their opinion fully? Are they a writer? Well, they're not a writer. It's a million questions I know will be going through my head. So I'd love to hear what your perspective is on that, just to help me out a little bit.
So I think for me, I'm a movie fan.
Yeah.
Huge experience with movies as a fan and a viewer. What I was trying to do, what I learned, the learning experience for me through Snowblind, the big shift with that aha moment in writing was what I was trying to do was watch Snowblind as a movie in my head and then write it down as a book. And that doesn't work. It's actually the other way around. The words on the page lift into the reader's head and paint the movie in their head. So you've got to be careful that you're just not copying down a movie. It works the other way. And the editing process is extremely powerful. How you word a sentence and a paragraph of sentences. It's extremely powerful how little edits can change the meaning of a sentence or the scene in the reader's head. What comes first? Because you're painting it word by word. So, I mean, this is all just, again, stuff I've taught myself just doing this, just diving in and doing it. But but again, it's a learning process. So that's probably, I think, that aha moment of how the words are painting the picture in the reader's head one by one.
Yeah,
They're
that
getting each
helps.
word in sequence.
Yeah, I really appreciate the way you worded that. That really brought it to life for me. And I have been doing exactly that for years with the, viewing a movie that I'm trying
Mhm.
to make in my head and then putting it on paper. And man, hey, maybe you just gave me a whole new perspective. I really appreciate that.
So your words are putting the picture and seeing everything into the reader's head as a movie, because they're seeing it as a movie, but with words lifting the other way, not words, not a picture you're writing out. So when you that was one thing I grasped finally, and then it actually got smoother. The other thing is that practice makes perfect. I noticed as Snowblind went on over the 6.5 months, it got easier to write and the caliber rose. So I went back and re-edited the first 2 or 3 parts heavily with the experience that I picked up over the 6.5 months. And I also did that with the second novel as well. So again, the same thing happened. The caliber increased as I kept going. Wow. So it's almost like working out. The first month is tough. Second month gets easier. Third month easier. The exact same thing with writing. So it is a skill that you learn, definitely.
That's good to know. And it's also like, sorry about that. Another thing I was curious about your perspective. I'm actually currently going through this, so this will be active advice. I'm at a point in something I'm working on where I could really go 2 completely different ways. And I'm not sure the best, most efficient, or even what will satisfy me. What's the best way to decide between the 2? And I'm curious if you've ever run into something like that. Did you follow both of them for a while? Like how did you handle something like that?
That's a great question that I can definitely relate to the thing completely, 100%. I don't know what your specific 2 avenues are: writing project, film project. So I'm guessing something like that.
Well, I'm technically writing. It feels like I'm writing a novel, but I'm not. I'm writing an audio drama.
Okay.
So it's even has another layer of got to express even more because it's not going to, or I don't know. It's a different dynamic for sure. But all in all, it's a plot divergence. Basically, it's, do I do this now, or is that too soon? Or should I go with this other way? I don't know. Should I be more specific? I can, if you want. It's basically like very beginning of the story. It's like, do we take this bad guy hostage right now, or do we let him escape and we meet him later down the road? And I know that you don't have any context to what I'm writing, obviously, but it's just, how would you handle a crossroads of any kind in there? Would you follow both plots for a certain amount of time? Okay.
Absolutely.
You're nodding.
So they say that writers fall into 2 categories: film and novels as plotter and pantser. So you either plot ahead or you go by the seat of your pants. I cannot go. I haven't tried, and I wouldn't dare go by the seat of my pants. I think I would just end up writing something boring and paint myself in a corner, write myself into a corner. So with that scenario, what I would do is exactly what I did with Snowblind, exactly what I did with Fragments of the Outpost, the 12 anthology short stories, is run them through and see where they go, right? Is it Norris first or Palmer first? Let's see. Oh, this one's kind of like, meh. But if I make him first, this can lead to that. Oh, shit, that's a no-brainer.
Okay.
Right? So now fans might not like that, because some fans might be dead set that it's Palmer first or Norris first, and they might hate it from the get-go. But that's the beauty. It's no one's right, no one's wrong. I'm only presenting possible scenario, but I think the scenario might be a really good one because the story that comes after is kick-ass. So apply that to what you're doing,
I will. And it's funny that the answer is a pretty simple one. It's like, do the work. It's like, don't just hope that you're picking the right direction and fly by the seat of your pants. Like, that's another thing that I don't really, I'm not going to really ask you too much about, but maybe I'll ask you off air about how you outline, if you have, if you do have any advice in that category, because that's something I've never done. And I'm learning very early on in this project. Yep. If I want this to be a success, I can't fly by the seat of my pants. And that's something that I've done every time I've started writing, and I've never finished any of those projects. So
definitely switch over to plotting then. Yeah, definitely try plotting a story out. Right now, this is all just stuff that I've taught myself and learned. Right now, I'm looking at a 10,000 word outline before I would start writing a novel. So my third novel is right there. Right before we got on the air here, I was editing my plot outline for my third novel, and I'm just coming up on 10,000 words, and I feel like I could start writing this book very soon now. Like it's there, it's solid. You know, the ending, the beginning, the whole arc of the characters it's all right there. And thinking a lot about my readers too, with Snowblind and the pacing, is thinking about my reader. Like, okay, like myself last night with the Dean Koontz book, somebody's gonna be sitting there reading this book. They've got their own life going on, bills, kids, pressure, life stress. You got to write something that they're gonna keep their mind on, that they're gonna want to keep reading.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing to do with pacing. It's just, you know, watch your pacing of stuff. But I would try plotting. Definitely plot the story so you've got at least, you know, it can be one page. Just this guy's going to come here, 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 and this is going to happen at the end.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Really. I'm going to apply these things and see if I have more success this time around. I probably will.
I don't know. It's probably a whole nother talent or skill is I don't know how writers do the pantser path.
Yeah.
I have no idea how that can even work because the stuff I'm doing is not possible doing it that way. I mean, because these connections and these stories, characters cross over when I'm thinking of doing multiple books in the same universe that cross over and wrap behind each other. I mean, this stuff has to all be done ahead of time. And I don't know, do you know of any author that, because when I decided I was going to do this and write a series of books set in the same universe across a strict timeline, but I'm starting now. So now is the chance to do something original. What if I did all the books together in one go and had them all cross over decades, over a century? So in one scene of one book, something's happening in the background of another, and it's from another book. So I don't know if any authors, I'm sure they have, everything's been done at this point.
That's a beautiful idea.
I'm kind of avoiding Googling that in case it's obviously been done, you know, so.
Yeah, just be ignorant to it. Just like, hey, I didn't listen. It was novel to me.
And in some ways you can stay original like that, some ways, but I'm definitely a proponent of mass reading many authors, watching many films.
Yeah, I mean, the only author that I know of who I never heard mention outlining is Stephen King. And
that's right.
He's a different breed. I mean, I read his memoirs, his master class, whatever you want to call it, the On Writing book. That was one of the most amazing books I ever read on writing. And I'm looking back on it thinking there's nothing about outlining. There's nothing about like diagramming a plot. I mean, maybe he just didn't mention it, but I don't know. He just told us, the readers, you go in there for 8 hours and you don't come out, basically. I don't know how he does it. That's a savant.
I'm sure, yeah, he probably was a talented writer, of course. I'm sure he, I question it a little bit about the plotting, about how much he might actually have plotted, because maybe I said it's only a page, but a page is enough to write a novel. You could definitely make a novel out of a page.
True.
But I'm thinking of two books of his that just trying to run examples. I'm trying to run like the Shawshank Redemption, The Long Walk, and 11/22/63. So they're different novels. Now I can see The Long Walk being got this base idea and go with it. I can see that being done that way. But then when I come around and see 11/22/63 or the Shawshank Redemption,
maybe he's changed his ways.
If he winged those, but I don't see how you could wing a book like the time travel book. I don't see how that's possible. And actually, I read that he spent a long time. I don't know the exact time, but like a month or two on location researching the novel. So
11/22/63. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule and all that. Maybe at the time he wrote On Writing, he was doing things a little differently. I'm not sure.
On Writing, when did that even come out? I think that
was late 90s, I think. Yeah, very late 90s or 2000. So I'm not sure. But yeah, this has been really great getting to know you better. And you and I could literally go on for hours about the thing. And, you know, I do a movie podcast with a buddy of mine, and we strictly talk about everything movies. So who knows, maybe we'll ask you to come on sometime. We'll just
That would be
shoot
really
the
cool.
shit, you know, because we both love Carpenter through and through, but The Thing is so prolific and just so prominent. I mean, and I know that when you and I first initially spoke, I'm not even sure if you remember that I was coming at it from a much more dark and conspiratorial angle towards you. And it's like, I've learned a lot as a podcaster throughout the year. It's like, you know, if I want to branch out and not just look into what's weird, I'm going to have to, you know, embrace more general topics. And the fact is, The Thing I could talk about it without any weirdness for, you know, forever, you know, but I would like your opinion on this and Carpenter in general. I in my community of tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists, Carpenter's films are so much more than he ever claims. And I was just curious, in your heart of hearts, if you feel like, as Carpenter, as the director that he is, would he even really give you the deep reasons he wrote things and what the overall themes in his head were? Or would he just slap a topical thing on and just walk away? You know, that's been my perspective, but what's yours?
I would say definitely his inner workings are inside him. And I think I've never actually spoken to Mr. Carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
He gave us some feedback on Outpost 31 for the 35th anniversary through his agent. He does have 2 copies of Snowblind in his office. I have no idea, you know, assigned to him. I have no idea if he's read them or not. I haven't heard anything. I don't expect to. But I believe, from what I've read, many magazine articles going back from the 80s through, I believe, you know, he's very anti-Hollywood.
Yeah.
I think that and I'm no expert on Carpenter. I am not a Carpenter expert by any means. The Thing is my favorite movie. But from this, going from what I've read, gleaned off, you know, 20-some years with The Thing, is anti-Hollywood. I believe his genre should not have been horror. I really think, and actually confirmed this from producers who work closely with him, said no, Carpenter should have definitely veered away from the horror very quickly and should have gone into drama westerns or crime. Look at Assault on Precinct 13.
Dude,
that's a great film.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know?
Good enough to remake. And
I think he would have found his footing stronger and longer in that genre. And I know I've had countless people who've worked right alongside him say the exact same thing. And I think they're right. I think they're right. And I think that really picked this up over the years, that he was hurt very badly by the film reception and the financial reception to The Thing. And I believe in '82, when he cut that final version of The Thing, he saw what we're seeing today. Yeah. Fantastic film. And I think he was very surprised by the reaction of what happened. And, you know, there's been a few film critics who are still alive today, some of them, who actually pulled the review and said, I've got to change my review. That was, at the time I saw the film, and I'm pulling it. I don't know their names, but I know it's been done. Definitely.
Wow.
They went back and said, no, this is a standout film, 10 out of 10.
Good on them. That's rare. And
Mhm.
it aged like a fine wine. And of course, like
absolutely.
you said, Carpenter knew it right off the bat, what he had.
I think everybody with the film knew it, and I think everybody was shocked. And I think the film disappeared very quickly from theaters. I think in 10 days, in some places, it was completely long gone.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then it came out on video, I think a year and a half later for rental, where it really started to find its footing with viewers and fans. But I think that had a lasting effect on a lot of people with the film.
Yeah, I think Carpenter created an allegory on par with Lord of the Flies. I mean, that's a little bit of a stretch plot wise, but I mean, he paints a picture of humanity among those 12 men in a crisis, in my opinion. And it's just, and I think that's the nature of his work, right? I mean, as he left the ending ambiguous, it's kind of like you can see more and more of what he was possibly thinking and saying the more times that you look into that film and the deeper you look at every scene and every delivery. So, yeah. Well, Todd, this has been really great. I really appreciate you coming on and having this interview with me. And I definitely appreciate the writing advice. And I might bug you for some more eventually, if you don't mind.
No worries, no problem at all. I tell you, I'm having a blast with what I'm doing, and I'm very happy that The Thing kind of was the catalyst, the inception for me to actually keep writing now. So, I mean, if this was what this whole thing was from back to 1984 to now, I'm definitely aware of that. It's quite clear in front of me that this was the path. And I'm very excited about the next book, which comes out in December.
Excellent. Do you have, what's the name of it?
Hurricane Hole. So it's
Hurricane
same
Hole.
genre. It's a crime noir thriller. And it's also, interestingly, in the same universe as Snowblind. So this one is set in August 2004. So we're 22 years down the road.
Okay.
It's all takes place here in Florida during Hurricane Charlie.
Wow. Oh, that's going to be exciting, man. I really, really can't wait to read it, man. I'll be picking it up. I hope everybody else checks out Snowblind. Seriously, Thing fans, non-Thing fans, you will love Snowblind. It's a riveting novel. It's great. It's a great thriller. Todd, if you'd like, I can let my audience know where they could reach out and find you. That's what
Sure,
we
I've got
usually
a
do here.
website, toddcameron.net. And basically everything is linked from there. I have, of course, Snowblind is ebook and print paperback on Amazon. And if you subscribe to my mailing list, you get a ebook of my novella Midnight Pass, which is a shorter read, but it's again a Florida noir thriller.
Nice, excellent. All right, and also, of course, Outpost 31.
Right.
Bring it on in. Come on, everybody that hasn't joined us yet in the Thing sphere, because it's fun. And yeah, everybody, please go check out Snowblind. Todd, thank you again for being here, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks, Andy. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Deep Share Podcast. If you want to hear more, then hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all the social places. And remember, think for yourself, but don't always believe what you think. Till next time.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, that's hysteria.
Enough, I get the point.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone.
What do we know? What do we know? If I know what we know, then I can tell you what we know, and if someone else knows, okay?